Revelation, long considered the most controversial book in the Bible. In its cryptic language, many see a timeline for destruction on an unprecedented level. Some argue the timeline will end suddenly, violently, in this century.
What if we tell you that the Bible is not telling us the whole story? The Book of Enoch holds secrets that were left out, secrets that might shock you. For centuries, this book has been hidden away. Why was it left out, and what are they trying to hide? The discovery of the lost chapter. In 1773 in Ethiopia, something incredible happened. A book that had been lost for centuries suddenly reappeared, almost as if it had been waiting for the right moment to be found. The Book of Enoch, long forgotten by most of the world, was discovered in Ethiopia, where it had been preserved in the sacred scriptures of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The rediscovery was no small thing. The Book of Enoch, a text that holds secrets of angels, giants, and apocalyptic prophecies, was not included in most Bibles, and its absence had raised plenty of questions and controversies. Before this discovery, the book was only known through references and fragments. It was believed to be lost forever, maybe intentionally hidden by religious authorities. But in Ethiopia, this ancient manuscript, written in Ge'ez, was brought to light. It was a treasure trove of ancient knowledge. The text was not just a curious relic, it was a missing piece of the puzzle in understanding biblical history and ancient belief systems. Now let's step back for a second. While this rediscovery in Ethiopia was monumental, it wasn't the first time that the Book of Enoch had been brought back into the world's consciousness. Fast forward a couple of centuries to the 1940s, when an even more jaw-dropping discovery was made, this time near the Dead Sea in the Middle East. In 1946 and 1947, a group of Bedouin shepherds were out tending their flocks near the Qumran caves in what is now the West Bank. While poking around in a cave, one of the shepherds tossed a rock into a crevice and heard something break. Curious, they crawled in and found ancient clay jars with scrolls inside. When these scrolls were brought to light, they sent shockwaves through the academic and religious worlds. Among the scrolls were fragments of the Book of Enoch, confirming what many had suspected. This ancient text was an integral part of the religious landscape during the time of early Judaism and Christianity. Why did this discovery matter so much? Because the Dead Sea Scrolls weren't just scraps of ancient paper. They were pieces of history that filled in the gaps in our understanding of the Bible. Scholars had long known that the Book of Enoch existed, but the full text was a mystery. The fragments found in the Qumran caves were part of a much larger work, confirming the book's existence long before the time of Christ. The Book of Enoch, it turns out, had a much deeper connection to the foundations of biblical teachings than anyone had realized. For years, the book had been dismissed or ignored by religious authorities. After all, it was full of controversial content, stories of angels descending from heaven, interacting with humans, and giving them secret knowledge. It talked about Nephilim, giants born from these unions, and it foretold apocalyptic visions of the future. Not exactly Sunday school material, right? But here it was, in fragments, evidence that the Book of Enoch had existed as a part of ancient Jewish tradition. So why had it been left out? Well, that's a question that has puzzled scholars for centuries. Some argue that the church rejected the book because it was too radical, too mystical for the more structured theology that took hold in Christianity. Others suggest that its teachings about angels in the end of days might have been too much for the early church to handle. Either way, this rediscovery in Ethiopia and the Dead Sea Scrolls finding in Qumran didn't just bring the Book of Enoch back into the spotlight. They raised even more questions about why this book, with all its secrets and mysteries, was left out of most Bibles in the first place. But what makes the Book of Enoch so significant? It doesn't just tell wild stories about angels and giants. It touches on cosmic ideas about the universe, creation, and even the fate of humanity. The Dead Sea Scrolls gave us proof that this book had a much bigger influence on ancient spiritual thinking than we thought. And here's the twist. These scrolls weren't just found in one location. They were scattered all over the desert, hiding in caves, waiting for someone to find them. Each new discovery brings us one step closer to uncovering what else was hidden in the world's ancient texts. This was more than a case of finding a lost book. It was like finding a missing chapter of history itself, one that challenges our understanding of ancient religions, the Bible, and the very nature of good and evil, the hidden secrets. Now that we've explored how the Book of Enoch was rediscovered, let's see what makes it so fascinating and terrifying. This ancient text is not just full of stories. It's packed with forbidden knowledge, fallen angels, giants, and a strange view of the cosmos that'll challenge everything you thought you knew about the world. One of the most disturbing parts of the Book of Enoch is the tale of the Watchers, angels who came down to earth not to help, but to teach humanity forbidden secrets. These weren't your ordinary angels. They showed humans how to create weapons, read the stars, and practice things like astrology and magic, things that were considered restricted by divine law. Just think of learning how to predict the future, make weapons of war, or even control the forces of nature, all because a group of angels decided to break the rules. But that's not all. These Watchers didn't just teach, they also mated with human women, giving birth to the Nephilim, a race of hybrid giants. Now, were the Nephilim truly giants, towering over humans? Or were they just humans corrupted by the knowledge they inherited from their angelic fathers? Some believe they were enormous, supernatural beings. Others think they were regular humans who turned violent due to the influence of the fallen angels. The Nephilim didn't just terrorize humanity, they also spread more forbidden knowledge. All this knowledge led to chaos, violence, and the eventual Great Flood, which wiped out most of humanity. The Nephilim weren't just big in size, they were huge in their influence. But who were these disobedient angels? The Book of Enoch names 200 Watchers, led by Shemihaza and Azazel. Azazel is especially infamous for teaching humans how to work with metals and create weapons of war. The Watchers didn't just come to Earth, they turned everything upside down. They corrupted humanity, offering knowledge that led to destruction and chaos. The Watchers were punished for their actions. They were thrown into unending depths, and the Nephilim were wiped out in the flood. What's fascinating and terrifying is the way the Book of Enoch shows how the boundaries between heaven and earth were shattered. These angels did not just disobey, they crossed a line that affected humanity in ways that still ripple through history. The book raises the question, is forbidden knowledge truly dangerous, or does humanity need it to grow? And how far would angels go to change the course of human history? The revelation about creation. Now that we've uncovered the dark mysteries of fallen angels and giants in the Book of Enoch, let's shift gears and go through a more mind-blowing aspect, the secrets of creation. The lost chapters don't just repeat the creation story from Genesis. They reshape it, presenting a cosmological blueprint of the universe, revealed directly to Enoch. The story starts in chaos and darkness, a place where nothing exists. From this nothingness, God begins to create. It was not just about bringing light into the world. God was setting order in the chaos. The heavens and the earth were formed, followed by the shaping of the physical boundaries of the universe. Light didn't come first, but rather the foundations of the world itself. The earth was prepared, with law and structure, before anything lived on it. Then comes the shocker, vegetation. The Book of Enoch reveals that plants were created before any animals or humans. While most people assume light came first, this version has the earth covered in greenery before life forms start to roam. After that, animals were created to fill the earth, each serving a specific role. And finally, humanity was made, crafted from the dust of the earth and placed at the top of creation. But the story doesn't end with human beings. Angels are also central in this account, but not the kind we're used to. In Enoch's version, God creates vast armies of angels, known as the intangible ones, who serve him in heaven. These are not just winged messengers. They're powerful beings made of light and fire, set in place to protect the divine order. Their creation adds a whole new layer to the cosmic design. Enoch also describes the throne of God, the center of the universe from which everything flows. The throne is not just a symbol, it's the source of all creation. Surrounding it are the heavenly hosts, and through God's power from this throne, the universe is ordered. Everything from the stars to the forces of nature obeys this divine authority. What makes this creation account so different is its depth and detail. While Genesis talks about creation in a more straightforward, sequential manner, the Book of Enoch offers a much richer, more complex picture. It shows that creation was not just a random event, but an intentional act of divine will, bringing order to chaos, piece by piece. This cosmic order, with angels and divine thrones, challenges how we view creation. It makes us question, if there are alternative creation stories out there, how might they change our understanding of the universe and our place in it, the prophecies and mysteries? If you think the Book of Enoch is all about fallen angels and strange cosmology, think again. This ancient text also contains powerful prophecies that keep you up at night. Enoch's visions of the future are not just vague predictions. They offer chilling, detailed hints of the end times and the fate of humanity. One of the most striking prophecies in the book is about the Great Flood long before Noah's Ark ever came into the picture. This flood, which some believe to be a precursor to the more famous flood in the Bible, was set in motion by the corruption of mankind. Enoch sees the earth filled with violence and sin, so much so that the world is destined for destruction. As the angels weep, God decides to purge the wicked with a flood, wiping away those who have turned their backs on justice. Enoch, ever the messenger, warns humanity of the coming destruction. This apocalyptic vision shows that the flood was not just an isolated event, but part of a larger divine plan to rid the earth of evil. But the prophecies don't stop there. After the flood, Enoch speaks of a final judgment where the wicked, those who've lived in sin and defied of divine law, are punished, while the righteous are rewarded. This judgment is not just for the people of Enoch's time, but extends to the future, with a promise that those who walk in faith and justice will be saved, while the wicked will face eternal damnation. The imagery of judgment here is clear and terrifying. One of the most intriguing aspects of Enoch's visions is the prophecy of the Messiah. In this ancient book, the Messiah is foretold to return to earth, where he will establish a 1,000-year reign of peace and justice. This isn't just a nice little prophecy. This vision details how the Messiah will bring restoration to the earth, overthrow the wicked rulers, and bring an era of justice. For many, this vision aligns with ideas in the New Testament about Christ's second coming, though with some significant differences. The 1,000-year reign is often referred to as the millennium, a period of perfect peace where humanity will live in harmony with God. This part of Enoch's prophecy has sparked debates for centuries. What exactly will this empire look like? And when will it happen? The Book of Enoch also gives a very specific roadmap to the end of the world. Enoch's visions describe mysterious events that lead to the final days, when evil is finally eradicated and God's kingdom is established forever. These events are shrouded in mystery and symbolism, with angels acting as the agents of divine anger. The righteous will see signs in the heavens, earthquakes, and other cosmic disruptions that signal the beginning of the end. And when the time comes, the dead will rise, and the righteous will be gathered to live eternally with God. So the Book of Enoch isn't just a collection of strange stories about angels and giants. It's packed with prophecies about the future, about the end of the world, the flood, the final judgment, and the coming of the Messiah. These ideas are intense, to say the least, and they've influenced many biblical teachings. But here's the key point. The Book of Enoch contains knowledge that some believe could reveal hidden truths about our world and the future, shedding light on divine judgment and cosmic mysteries. Could it hold answers missing from traditional scriptures? Why was the lost chapter hidden? The Book of Enoch is filled with revelations that were once too controversial for mainstream Christianity. So why was it excluded from the biblical canon? To answer that, we need to take a deeper look at its teachings and prophecies, which didn't sit well with the early church fathers. One of the biggest reasons for its exclusion was the book's teachings about Jesus and creation. The Book of Enoch contains prophecies that seem to reference Jesus, but in a way that didn't line up with what the early church believed. Enoch's prophecy about the Messiah's empire was seen as too specific, even problematic in some cases. Some church leaders, like Clement of Alexandria and Irenaeus, dismissed the book because it seemed to contain ideas about Jesus that were unconfirmed by other scriptures. These were ideas that the church hadn't fully adopted, and for them, the Book of Enoch was an uncomfortable reminder that the biblical narrative was not as clear-cut as they wanted it to be. In short, the early church didn't like how the Book of Enoch challenged the existing framework of Christian beliefs about Jesus' divinity and prophecies of his coming. But there was more than just Jesus-related controversy. The Book of Enoch also revealed dangerous teachings about creation, angels, and the cosmos. The cosmological knowledge in the book was unbelievable, talking about angels coming down to earth, creating giant hybrid beings, and teaching humanity forbidden knowledge. This knowledge included things like astrology, weapon making, and other supernatural practices. And let's face it, who would want to endorse a text that talks about angels breaking the laws of heaven to pass on knowledge that was clearly meant to stay secret? The church couldn't have people reading about angelic rebellions and Nephilim hybrids walking around. These were dangerous ideas and no one wanted to give them a platform. The truth is that the Book of Enoch was too radical for mainstream Christianity at the time. Its content was seen as unorthodox and at times downright frightening. Angels defying God, forbidden knowledge passed down to humanity, and giants running wild. This was a little too wild for the conservative theology the early church was trying to build. It challenged accepted norms about God, angels, and even human nature. The fact that the book also predicted apocalyptic events, like the final judgment and the coming of a Messiah, added fuel to the fire. This wasn't just a nice theological treatise. It was a firebrand of ideas that some felt had the potential to undermine the established order. So what happened? The Church Fathers decided that the Book of Enoch was just too much. Its ideas didn't fit with the orthodox Christian teachings they were trying to promote. They didn't want to risk anyone being led astray by visions of rebellious angels or teachings that seemed too close to pagan influences. Instead, they opted to leave the book out of the canon, effectively burying it. Over time, the Book of Enoch disappeared from the biblical conversation, mostly forgotten except for a handful of early Christian references. But here's the twist. Even though the Church Fathers rejected it, the Book of Enoch didn't just disappear. It survived in parts of the world where Christianity was a little more, shall we say, flexible in its beliefs. This included areas like Ethiopia, where it remained a part of the Christian tradition for centuries. But in the mainstream Christian world, the Book of Enoch was forgotten until modern scholars started rediscovering its secrets. Now here's where the debate comes in. Is the Book of Enoch divinely inspired, or is it just a mythical story filled with supernatural elements? Scholars have been debating this for years, with some arguing that the book holds real, divinely inspired secrets about creation, the nature of the angels, and even the future of humanity. Others think it's simply a work of fiction, a product of a much earlier, more mystical tradition. The debates are still ongoing, with no clear understanding on whether the Book of Enoch should be considered sacred scripture or a legendary work that simply got a little too carried away with its own imagination. But the mystery remains. Why hide a book that contains so much potentially life-changing knowledge? Could it be that the Book of Enoch has answers to questions that the early church didn't want the world to ask? Could the knowledge in those pages reveal secrets about our creation, the angels, and the end times that we are not meant to know? These are the questions that continue to stir curiosity among believers and skeptics alike. What do you think? Are the secrets in the lost chapters of the Book of Enoch too dangerous for us to know? Or is there something we've been kept in the dark about for centuries? We would love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update.